Well, that's a kind of wonderful story. I came out here to play a club. In the meantime, I had played a club called the Martinique in New York, which was kind of a wonderful place. Danny Kaye had played there. It had a wonderful reputation. So that was a feather in my cap to play the Martinique. So I came out here to play a club called the Clover Club, which had been a gambling club, and they were cleaning it up and trying to go straight. And I think I was their first act, and I think I was their last act. It was right next to Ciro's on the Strip. Anyway, I had a mutual friend here, a man named Sammy Locke, who had written sketches for the Flatbush Arts Theater. Everything is connected. And Larry had knew him and asked him. Larry was producing an evening of comedy at the Actors Lab, and he asked Sammy if Sammy had any musical comedy sketches. He was going to have Chekhov's The Bear, Lottie Gosler, who was a dance mime, do a comedy thing, an Irwin Shaw play, which was a comedy. So he thought he would like to have a musical comedy sketch. And so Sammy said, yes, there's a very funny one about Hollywood. And the gal who did it on Broadway is here in town. Maybe she'll do it for you. So Sammy took me over to the Actors Lab, and I met this very attractive man. And I didn't really know what his capacity was, except that all during rehearsal he kept sticking his head in and saying, is everything all right? And finally, one day after rehearsal, he came up and said, may I take you for a cup of coffee? And I said, sure. So he took me to Brittingham's, which was the cafeteria and cafe right near Columbia Pictures, where all of the people who worked at Columbia hung out. And I guess Warner Brothers and all those studios down on Gower would all go to Brittingham's, which is on Sunset, I believe. But instead of taking me into the cafeteria, he took me into the cocktail lounge and bought me a champagne cocktail. So that should have been a sign, I guess. And then he drove me up on Mulholland, and we looked out at the gorgeous view. I know exactly where that is now. It's just beyond Outpost Road. And at one point he turned to me and he said, you're the girl I'm going to marry. And I said, sure, okay. But I didn't take him seriously. So then I went back to Chicago to do another club date. And it just happened that Larry was from Joliet, Illinois. And he said, when you're in Chicago, would you mind going over to Joliet and meeting my mother? Which I did. And I fell in love with her. She was just a great lady. And she showed me all of Larry's baby pictures and everything. I remember thinking, oh, would I love to have a little boy like that? Of course, I ended up having two little boys like that. We met in May, and I went back to New York to work and lost about 6-7 pounds. And my mother finally said, I think you better get married. So I was losing weight, pining away. So I called Larry and I said, were you serious? And he said, absolutely. So I flew out to California in September. And I'll never quite understand how this happened, because after I got to know Larry, he was the kind of person that did research before he bought a toothbrush, and everything he ever did was so careful and really conscientiously investigating things before he would ever make such a big decision as getting married. And how he happened to do that with me, I'll never quite understand.